All right, good morning. Thank you for joining. Let's begin our session. So we were discussing about Route 53, and we have already seen so what are the things that we need to do for Route 53? Suppose if we wanted to use a service called Route 53, the important thing that we must know is Route 53 is mainly for DNS, domain name system or domain name service. So DNS is the purpose of DNS is it mainly converts the IP address to the domain name and a domain name to the IP address, vice versa. Already seen these things in the previous sessions. So practicals also we have seen. First of all, we need to register a domain. We have already seen how to register a domain. Here we have on the left navigation, we have registered domains. We need to go for registered domains. We need to search for the domain name. The domain name is available. That's fine. The domain name is not available, then it will suggest the available domain names. We can select any one from the available domain names and we can go ahead and we can purchase the domain. Once the domain purchase is done, okay, once you are done with the domain purchase, then we will go to the hosted zones. We need to create one hosted zone. The left navigation itself under Route 53, we are coming here to the hosted zone. Just click on create hosted zone so that hosted zone will be created. So this is the hosted zone I've created, vamsicloud.com. This is an example hosted zone I created. While creating the hosted zone, it will ask you whether you want to create public hosted zone or private hosted zone. I've selected public. It is up to you based on the requirement. Okay. So if it is within the organization, we can select private. If it is outside, anyone. Okay. If you want anyone can access this, we can go for public. Okay. I've created public hosted zone. I'm selecting this public hosted zone. After going inside, by default, we'll be having two records, as I told you. One is NS record, the other one is SOA. We need to create multiple records. We need to create a record for the routing policies. We have already seen that we'll be having multiple routing policies, right? What are the routing policies we have? Simple routing policy, okay? Weighted routing policy, failover, geolocation. We are going to focus on these routing policies. We understood what is simple routing policy. Simple routing policy means for configuring simple routing policy, what we should do is we should not disturb the existing records. Existing, we have two records, right? We will not disturb the existing records and we'll be going for creating a new record. So it is clearly showing this is the domain name and I want to route my traffic to this domain name. You need to provide the IP address. Okay. Suppose, for example, it is clearly showing some IP address that is showing 192.0.2.235. And this is the IP address. Okay. This is the IP address I'm providing. And I will be selecting the routing policy, a simple routing policy, and I'm going to create a record. That's it. So that what happens is it will convert. So that what happens is we are going to convert the domain name into IP address. Okay. We are going to convert the domain name into, so it converts actually. So if I create a simple routing policy, what happens is this domain name will be linked to this particular IP address. And whenever it get request, okay, if the people use this website or the domain name from the browser, so that the request will be diverted to the IP address. So that is the purpose of simple routing policy we have understood earlier. And we can also see that there are other routing policies like weighted routing policy. For example, we can also select weighted routing policy here. If I'm selecting weighted routing policy, we need to provide the weight for this. For example, if I'm giving 80 here, I'll be creating this record. And for the remaining weight, I'll be creating another record and I can give the weight as 20. Okay, we are dividing the weights. Okay. So if I don't want to route all the traffic to one server. So that time what I will do is I will split the weights. I want 80% of the traffic to be routed to this particular server. I'll be creating another record. Okay, I'll be adding another record. So this particular record, this is not the same IP address. I'll be giving the different IP address. Okay. Assume that I'll be giving a different IP address so that this particular, I'm going to give like 236 something. Here I'll be selecting weighted routing policy. Okay. So first weighted, for the first record that I've created, I've given 80. So for the second record I'm giving here, I'm creating here, I'll be giving 20. So that 80% of the traffic will be routed to this particular IP address of the server, and the remaining 20% will be routed to this particular server. This is how actually we'll be creating a records for weighted. And we have also seen what are the other kinds of records. Okay, I'm going back again. So for now, I am not creating records. So when can we create records is if you have the domain name ready. If you have the domain name ready, that time you can create records. Okay, if you have the domain name ready, you can create records. One second. If you have the domain name ready, you can create the records. So for now, we don't have the domain name registered. That's the reason why we are just seeing the practicals like without domain name and all. Okay. So fine. Let's go ahead and create another one. I'm creating a record, one more record for. See here, what are the routing policies we are having? The same thing. Okay. This is the domain name. I'll be routing the traffic. Here we can provide the IP address, or otherwise the load balance reviewer also we can provide here. I'll be going for routing policy called uh, failover routing policy. When you select the failover routing policy, we will see two types of records here. What are the two types of records that we will see? In failover routing policy, what are the two types of records that we will see? One is primary, the other one is
secondary.
Secondary. Okay, we have primary and secondary. You can keep the first region as primary. Okay, if you are selecting some region here, if you are giving some server name or load balancer URL, if you want to make it as primary, you can make it as primary. And you can create another record. You can create another record, select the failover routing policy again, and go for secondary, make it as secondary. Okay. So this is one routing policy we are discussing, simple weighted failover latency. Let's go ahead for latency. What is latency route over policy? If I'm going back, if you create a record for failover latency, the same thing. Okay, this is the domain name. You select the failover routing policy here. It is asking to choose. Sorry, failover is already done. I'm selecting latency. Okay, latency. If you select latency here, it is asking different regions. Okay, so we can select any one of the region here. Latency in the sense, for example, so if this particular region, consider we have a Mumbai region, and if the customers are accessing, if customers are trying to access the application from Mumbai region, customers are trying to, or otherwise the clients are trying to access the application from Mumbai region. So the request will be diverted to the particular region. Okay, the request will be diverted to the region without latency. So if we implement routing policy, the main objective of routing policy is here you can see. I'll be showing you what is main. And see here latency. Okay, latency based routing. So it will allow your traffic based on the lowest network latency. Lowest network latency. Consider here we have two regions, US East 1 and US West 1. For this customer, to access the application, it will take only 100 milliseconds. And for the same customer, it will be taking 300 milliseconds from US West 1. So which is the lowest latency one? This one, US East 1. So the traffic will be diverted to the lowest latency one. For the customer, so you see, whenever a customer is trying to access their application, the traffic will be diverted to the lowest network latency regions from your end user. From the end user, whichever is the lowest network latency, that the traffic will be diverted to the particular region. That is how the latency routing policy will work. Okay, so we can create any records. Suppose for this particular server, the region is Mumbai. We can configure Mumbai. We can give another server and we can configure another region. So that for those customers, okay, Seoul customers, the traffic will be diverted to this particular server. For Mumbai region, the traffic will be diverted to the particular server you are giving here, like that. That is latency, and the same thing is like the same example you can consider for geolocation also. Geolocation will also work. Latency, geolocation, both are similar only, but two different parameters. based on the latency and based on the location. This is purely based on the location. If customers are mainly from North America, we are asking them to divert the request to this particular server. If the customers are from South America, we'll be asking to divert the request to this particular server. This is how we are configuring based on the geolocation routing policies. Okay. So hope you understood. If you have any questions, we can discuss what are the other what is Route 53 and what are the routing policies we have. Otherwise, we will be starting a new one. We'll be going with a new service called Cloud Trial. Any questions in Route 53? The main advantage of Route 53 is you can attach the domain name to the IP address, and you can also route the traffic based on the locations, based on the failover scenario. Okay, there are many types of routing policies. Okay, let's come to this service called Cloud Trial. If you have any questions, we can discuss. Otherwise, we will move to this new service called Cloud Trial. We'll understand what is this service. Cloud Trial is an auditing service. Cloud Trial is an auditing service. Okay, what is this Cloud Trial? It is an auditing service. What do you mean by auditing? What do you mean by auditing? So, for example, consider someone has created or someone has deleted an S3 bucket. Okay, just giving an example to understand what is this Cloud Trial. Consider a scenario. You have an access. Okay. Usually, how we provide access in the AWS? How actually we provide access to the users in AWS? By using a service called?
Yeah.
We have already learned a service called IAM. What is the full form of IAM?
Identity access and management. Identity and access management.
Yes. IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. By using this service, we'll be providing access to the users. We'll be creating groups, and we will be assigning permissions to the groups or users. However, Identity and Access Management, IAM, is a service in the AWS. We'll be providing, with this service, we will be providing access to the users. We won't be providing root user access for anyone. Okay. We won't be providing, usually, if you are joining, if you are working in a project, you will not be getting a root user account access. Make sure, okay? You try to understand, everyone, okay? Anyone will not get root user access. Everyone will get IAM access only, Identity and Access Management. If that particular user is working on EC2 and S3 service, so that user will be provided only with IAM and S3 access. If another user is working on another service like VPC, subnets and all, he will be provided with such kind of access like VPC and all. Okay. So Cloud Trial, you come here, let's understand what is this Cloud Trial. It is an auditing service. What is the use of this service is, like, suppose if someone has deleted an S3 bucket, or if someone has deleted an EC2 machine, or if someone has deleted something, okay, something from the AWS, how can we track? How to track which user has deleted? We have provided IAM access to everyone. Okay, consider some 50 users are there. We have provided IAM access to all the 50 users, but some resource is deleted. So it is not intentionally, that resource is not intentionally deleted, but because of some reasons, accidentally the resource is deleted. Usually we will not be providing delete access actually. Okay, they will not be having admin access to delete the resources, but for somehow, if someone has changed the configuration, or if something happened, not only deletion, if someone has changed some configuration, or if someone has created a new resource, how to track everything in the AWS? We have a service called Cloud Trial. Let me show you. We have a service called Cloud Trial. I'm going back to a service called Cloud Trial. Okay, I'll be going with a service called Cloud Trial. I just log in into the AWS Cloud. Here you can see I'm going for a service called Cloud Trial. I'm searching for a service called Cloud Trial. Can you see here? Can you see here? We have a service called Cloud Trial. This is how you need to search Cloud Trial. This is mainly for tracking the user activity and API usage. Okay. I'm just going for inside the service. Okay. This is the service that now we are discussing. And can see here, this is the service. Cloud Trail is the service where on the left navigation, you can see dashboard, event history, all these things. For example, we have a kind of event history. I'm just trying to click on the event history. You can see here, all the history, all the history can be tracked here. Okay, for example, in this account, I've created some VPC or any other resource. I have created a key pair. I've created a security group. I've created an instance. Okay, every activity will be tracked here. Later, I've terminated the instances. Okay, if I create an instances, if I create a security group, if I create a topic or if I delete a topic, any activity, whatever the activity that we do, everything will be tracked here. Everything will be tracked here. Okay, for example, you see here, these are the events that I have so far. These are the events. Okay, November 29th. After 29th November, I don't have any events, right? After 29th November, I don't have any events. So let me do some activity here. After 29th, I don't have any events. I'm going to make some activity here. I'm going to have some activity here so that we'll see whether that event activity is being tracked or not. I'm just going for launching an instance. I'm just launching an instance. Okay. So here, when I'm launching an instance, you can see the event history here. I'm just refreshing the event history. Once the instance is launched, you can track the history of this particular one. The instance is here. And when if I refresh it after some time, usually immediately, the event history will be tracked. Event is not yet tracked. We need to wait for some time. Look, so actually, once the event is created here, once any event is created here, not only AWS, even if you create S3 or whatever it is, everything will be tracked here. Still, it is showing like November 29. Okay. So, yeah, let's wait for some time so that you can see the event. But here you see, here you can track each and every event here, whatever the events. Suppose if some IAM user is creating a storage bucket, if some IAM user is creating an EC2 instance, okay, if some IAM user is doing some other activity, all the events will be tracked here. And you can also see the users who is doing those activities. Root user is doing the activity. Username root user is doing the activity. So all these things, okay, all these activities has been done by root user only. Suppose if a new user, okay, if an IAM user has performed some activity, then that IAM user name will be displayed here. This is a new account actually. The old account has been like that. That is, I don't have the old account. This is a new account. So I'm able to see all the events starting from like when I have created account that time, starting from that time, I'm able to see all the activities here. I didn't create any IAM users. I did not create any IAM users. You can see here for now, December 2nd. Okay. December 2nd. What are the events that registered here? December 2nd, an event is registered here. You can see security group is created, instances are running. Okay. So the events name are being registered here. You can track all the registered who has created, even along with the username who created on December 2nd, some activity took place. So how this CrowdTrail will be useful? Suppose if some 50 users are there, all are the IAM users only, and some activity took place, and we are unable to find out who has done that, who has performed that. So that time we can come to this service called cloud trial, and we can track, okay, the person who is having access to this cloud trial service, he can able to see who has performed that activity on that particular date. So on December 2nd, I have done some activities performed. You can see here, this is called tracking. Okay, all the events. It is tracking all the events on December 2nd. Whatever the events that I have performed, all the events are being tracked here. Even I can download all these events here. You can see we can download all the events in some CSV format or JSON format. If you want, you can download this in the CSV format. And let me open and show you. All the events will be there in the Excel format. All the events will be there in the Excel format. You can see these are the events. Based on the username, you can again, if you want to filter out the events, then again, based on the username, we can do it. Okay. So this is how all the events will be downloaded in Excel format. Any event. So hope you understood what is the purpose of this service. What is the use of this service? Why we are using this particular cloud trial service? Cloud trial is mainly for what? This is mainly for tracking the events. Okay, the name itself, the cloud service, cloud trial service itself, you can see here. If you want to log your AWS account activity, okay, get started with AWS cloud trial by creating a trial to log your AWS account activity. All the events will be tracked. All the events will be tracked here. I'm just going ahead and showing you how actually what actually we need to do here. We need to create a trial. If you want to trial all these things, okay, if you want to trial all these logs into some AWS bucket, if you want to store all these things into some AWS bucket and all, you can create an AWS bucket, okay, management events. You can see, you can give some name here, enter a display name for your trial. So what I'm doing is I would like to create a bucket called, see, there is a bucket, okay, trial log bucket and folder. A bucket will be created. A bucket will be created and all the logs will be stored in this bucket. So I'm just creating a trial so that you can see. See, this is the bucket, okay? This is the bucket that is created. You can open that bucket and you can see this is the cloud trial folder created. You can open this and all the events you can suppose you see here there is a limit, right? There is a limit, like we cannot store the events for before 30 days. It cannot store all the events before some 45 days, like that. So what we will do is we will download everything in some Excel and we will be uploading everything here in some folder. We are creating a folder. Okay, we are creating a bucket and inside the bucket we will be storing all the events for the future tracking purpose. This is how actually we can do it. Any questions in understanding it? Very simple service. This is mainly for user management. Okay, this is mainly for user management. Like if some user has deleted S3 bucket or if some user has deleted EC2 instance, how to track is because based on how can we track based on the cloud trial service. We can go back to the service called cloud trial. We can see the event history. Okay, we can search based on the query. Suppose if the event, we are not able to find out the event, we can search based on the event. We can search based on the query. If we know the string, if we know the string, suppose S3 bucket is deleted. If we search with S3, then we can able to track all the events related done in the recent times with S3. So that's how also we can track the events. Very small service, you can understand easily. It is mainly for management. It is mainly for the management of events. Any questions? When you're deleting it. Okay. Then let's move on to the other services also. We have other services. We have other services also. Let's have a look for the other services. We have a service called Elastic Beanstalk. It's right. Let's see. Let's go ahead and discuss about another services. Another service called Elastic Beanstalk. Okay, let's understand what is the use of this Elastic Beanstalk and who use this Elastic Beanstalk service. What is the main objective of this Elastic Beanstalk? So this Elastic Beanstalk is mainly used by the developers. Elastic Beanstalk is mainly used by the developers. Usually what developers will do, developers will write the code. We know that. Developers will write the code, right? Usually developers will write the code. And to see whether whether his particular, whatever the code he has written, if it is working or not, if he wants to know whether it is working or not, then definitely he needs some environment. He needs some server. He need to deploy the application and he need to test it, whether the application is up and running or not, whether his function, whether his code is working fine or not, everything he need to test it out. So try to understand here, for testing the code, developer will write the code for creating an application. For testing the code, usually developers need some machines. Developer needs some servers to deploy. Developer not only needs machines, developer will require some environment. Okay, developers require some environment. And if developer needs some environment to deploy his application or to test whether his application is working fine or not, the solution for the developer is Elastic Beanstalk. Consider we have a .NET developer, okay? Consider we have a .NET developer or Python developer. He has written some code for his application and he wants to test whether his application is working fine or not. Usually to set it up, okay, to test his application, usually the setup actually requires, uh, the setup will consume most of the time. So in AWS, there is a service called Elastic Beanstalk, where the developers no need to go for setting up the environment. If developer having a code and if the developer uploads the code, AWS will automatically makes the setup for his code and it will show whether his application is working fine or not. It will create the infrastructure. It will create infrastructure by its automatical based on the code that is giving. Infrastructure will be created automatically based on this application nature, and the application it will show whether whether the application is having any issues or the application can work. Okay, everything it will show. So what actually developers will do is developer writes the code. They'll upload the code into the Elastic Beanstalk. Developers write the code. They'll upload the code into the Elastic Beanstalk. Infrastructure will be created automatically for testing the application. Got it? Hope you understood what is the main advantage of Elastic Beanstalk. Elastic Beanstalk is mainly for the developers. Developers will write the code for creating application. Okay. And for creating the infrastructure to deploy the application, it will take much time. So the solution for the developers is Elastic Beanstalk. Developers will bring the code and they upload the code into Elastic Beanstalk so that infrastructure will be created automatically for testing the application. Let's see here. I'm going for a service called Elastic Beanstalk. We have a service called Elastic Beanstalk. I'm going to a service called Elastic Beanstalk. Okay, this is the dashboard, okay? Applications, environment, and changes. So it is asking like, okay, we have three things only on the left: navigation, applications, environments, and change history. Create an application. I'm going to give some name. The application is my application. Just going ahead and create an environment. You see here, it is asking, okay, whenever the next step is create an environment. What are the three things that we have here? Application, environment, and change history. Okay. So this is the environment. This is the environment that is being created for the developer. So it is asking before it creates an environment, it has two types of environments. One is web server environment and the other one is worker environment. Okay. For now, I am selecting this web server environment only. The application name is anyhow, I provided my application name as my application. And so this is the domain name. Okay. After the application is up and running, if we want to test it, how the application is running or not. So usually we can leave this blank. We can leave this as a blank. Otherwise, we can also give some value so that it will take. This will be the domain name to test your application. This will be the domain name to test your application. Since we are doing it in the Mumbai environment, it is by default taking AP South One Elastic Beanstalk.com. Choose a platform. What type of application is the developer is doing? Suppose if the developer is working on some .NET, okay, on Windows Server. Okay, if he is working on a .NET application, then I will be selecting .NET on Windows Server. If he is working on Python, I'll be selecting Python. Okay, so for now, I'll be going for .NET on Windows Server. Sample application. I don't have, if I have the application, if the developer is having the code, he will select this upload your code. If the code is present in local, then I can upload the code from the local. If the code is in here, I'm selecting upload your code option. Okay. I'm just selecting the upload your code option. It is asking the application like application code. We can upload the code from the local, or otherwise we can also keep the code. We can also keep the code in S3 also, S3 storage also. For now, I don't have any code. Suppose if I don't have any code, what I will do is I'll ask it to take the sample application and show the output. Okay. I'm just asking the application sample application code to take. It will take the sample application code. Okay. When I'm giving application code, it is by default taking the sample application. And I'm going for single instance free trial eligible. Next. Hope you understood nothing. What I'm doing here is it is going to create an environment for the application. Developer will not create it. Who actually, what is the benefit of this particular service? If the developer is having the source code and if he wants to test it, whether his application is running fine or not, so that he needs some environment to test it, he can directly go ahead, open Elastic Beanstalk, he'll upload the code so that the environment will be created and he can test it by using the domain name which is generated. He can see whether his application is running fine or not. Okay, so I'm just going ahead selecting this Elastic create and use new service role, prepare. Going for next one. Everything I'm giving default things. Okay, I'm not going for anything. I'm just giving all the default things. See, we don't need to provide anything. Developer will just upload the code and he will be creating an environment. That's it. You see here, can you see here? Elastic Beanstalk is launching your environment. It will take some few minutes of time. Okay. Hope you understood what is the purpose of Elastic Beanstalk. The developer is only having the code. He wants to test the code, how his code is working, and you don't have any environment to set up the environment. If it takes much time, then he can make use of the service called Elastic Beanstalk in the AWS. He can directly go there. He'll upload the code, whatever the code it is. Okay, you can see here, right? Usually now the environment is creating. It will take some time. I'm going back to the applications. This is my application, which is running. Okay, which is this is my application. Okay, it is creating application for this particular one. It is creating environment for this application. If you want to do, you can see here. I'm just creating a new application, and it is asking, right? I'm just giving name of the application as my application one. I'm just creating one more. Okay, I'm not creating one more. I just wanted to show you what are the different types of okay. You can see here. Suppose if it is asking the platform. Okay, what are the applications that it supports? .NET, Go language, Java, Node.js, PHP, Python, Ruby. All these are the things. Okay, these are the platform that it is supporting for now. It supports Java, .NET, Python, Node.js, Go language. Okay, anything. All these things are being supported for now. Okay, so this is how actually we use the service called Elastic Beanstalk. For now, I have two applications. I am deleting this my application one. Why? Because I don't want this application. That's the reason why I'm deleting this. Okay. You can see the status here. You can go for the status here to the environments. You can go to the environments and you can see if I am selecting this one. Okay. You can see the events here. Create environment is starting using the Elastic Beanstalk. It is using the Amazon S3 storage for data. So uh, all the events will be shown here. Okay, so still the Elastic Beanstalk is launching your environment. It will take some time. The only thing you need to do is you need to just give the code. Developer needs to upload the code. That's it. Developer have the code, then all the things will be created by default by the AWS. The service name is Elastic Beanstalk, if you remember. Any questions before we see this? Any questions in Cloud Trail as well as Elastic Beanstalk? Very simple services if you understand the concept. Why we are using this one on all these things. Okay, maybe we have not provided the EC to role with the application does not. Okay, we have not provided the role of the application. That's why it's failed to create an application. Not a problem. So you can go here. I'm just deleting this one. I'll be showing you how can we create a new one. It will delete it. For deleting it, for deletion also, it will take some time. I'm going to create a new application. How to create it? You can simply give the name of the application. My application one I am providing. I'm just going ahead and creating a new one. Create environment. So I'm just selecting web server environment and my application one platform is Python. Okay, for now I am selecting Python sample code, sample application. Okay, by default it will take the sample application, single instance. Okay, I'm asking to take single instance. I'm going ahead, going to the next option. You can see here, these are the important things. You can use an existing service role, the paid. We don't have any, choose IAM instance profile with managed policies. We don't have any IAM instance profile with managed policies. So it needs some IAM role, actually. IAM instance, because of this, it is failing. Okay. So nothing here. Here we just need to upload the code. So it is asking by default, it will take all the default things. You need to select the VPC. Okay. If it is a default VPC, we just need to select the default VPC. Otherwise, if you want to create all these things in your environment, you can provide your VPC so that the infrastructure will be created in your environment. Okay. So usually it will take some time and it will create the environment. Okay. Elastic Beanstalk will create your environment and there will be a domain name. Okay. Usually it will give you some domain name. So by using the domain name, we can access the application. You can see here, this is the domain name. So these are the events that we can see. Okay. Here itself, we can see the events. So it is starting, environment is starting, it is it is creating some infra. So whatever the events that it will show, all the events will be clearly mentioned here. We are not doing anything. Okay. We are just uploading the code and we are going for creating infra. Developer will go for creating infra so that the infrastructure will be created. And finally, you can access, if it is created without errors, we can able to access the application. And that too, we ask you to take the sample application code. We have not uploaded. So if the application code is available in our local machine, then we can upload the application code and then we can even we can use that application code and we can create infrastructure for that application code. You can see here this instance. I don't know. Okay. We delete this. So it is creating still. It is creating environment. It will take some few minutes. Okay. It will take some time. Why? Because it has to create all these things. It is failing because we are not giving some value like instance profile AWS EC Elastic Beanstalk EC2 role is not existing. That's the reason why it is failing. Okay, we need to provide that instance. We need to provide that role also there. Okay, no problem. We need to provide a role here as I shown you, right? So while creating an application, me shown you, I am just creating one more application to show you where we are missing my application to. I'm just creating this application. Here it is asking to create environment. You go for new environment. I'm selecting web server environment. And here it is asking to choose the platform. If I'm selecting Python, sample application, single instance, all these things are fine. So the next thing is like you need to select the service role. It is selected by default. Service role is there. I'm selecting this one. Key pair is there. We need to give this EC2 instance profile. Okay. So there are no IAM policies. That's the reason why we were not able to create this one. Let's see. Okay, we will see. Okay, we will see. We will create this EC2 instance profile and we will give this EC2 instance profile here. And then we will click on next so that the infra will be created. This is missing. Okay, that is missing. Because of that, it is not creating. It is failing while creating the environment. Okay, we will see in the next session. So you have any questions? You also can practice. Go ahead and practice. So the same way, in the same way. If you don't have the sample code, then directly we can go for sample application. We can choose sample application and we can test it out. Okay, so that you can add this service also. This is an important service where the developers use for testing their applications. Okay. Any questions? Any questions in both the services that we discussed today? One is Cloud Trial, the other one is Elastic Beanstalk. Okay, if no questions, then let's see some other services in the next session. Okay, we'll continue with some other services in the next session. Thank you all. Any questions we can discuss, otherwise we'll close this for today.